Well, hey everybody, John Rickland here, and with Ronda Rousey out of WWE for the foreseeable future with a broken hand and also wanting to start a family with her husband Travis Brown, and truly the best of luck to them if they want to have one kid or however many. If she comes back to WWE, then perhaps she will have, a rebirth and do just as well as she did in the ring for her 1 year that she was competitive in the ring. But for now, I'm going to take a look back at every single pay-per-view match she did for WWE and rank them from worst to best. And there were some good ones, some great ones. There were also some shitty ones. And you're going to have that with anybody. And I will say this, while I don't necessarily care for some of, what Rousey says and does outside of WWE, some of it, and you know what that stuff is, I gotta say, she caught on to wrestling a whole lot quicker than I thought she would, and she did impress me with what she did between the ropes. Maybe promos, not so much. They probably should have had Heyman with her, but that being said, she did leave one hell of a mark in her 1 year competitive in WWE. And who knows, she may end up having more matches down the road. But for now, I'm going to rank every single one of the 11 matches she did on WWE pay-per-view. And yes, this also includes Super Showdown and stuff like that, even though I really shouldn't say pay-per-view, because it's just exclusively on the network, but they still do pay-per-views over in the UK and other areas. So, that being said, let's get on with it. Don't worry, there are going to be some controversial placings here, but I have my reasons for it. Number 11, Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott at the Elimination Chamber. 1 minute, 40 seconds. I'm not saying that Ruby should have been able to put much of a dent in Ronda, but they had buried Ruby so goddamn much by this point. I mean, she had not really been doing much of anything, and I love Ruby Riott. And I give full credit to Ronda Rousey for embracing and getting better and taking the licks and taking the bumps in the ring. Again, her mic skills, that's another story. But this match with Ruby Riott didn't need to happen. It didn't need to happen because Ruby got fucking squashed. It didn't even feel like a minute and 40 seconds. It felt like 30 seconds. Nothing wrong with presenting Rousey as a killer, but at this point, you shouldn't have, since we knew she was going to be in the main event of WrestleMania, or at least be facing Becky and Charlotte, in a triple threat, because they were already going that route. You should have just had Ronda appear. You didn't need to squash Ruby at this point. Though I get it, Ruby wanted to defend against so many people, and she did defend against quite a few women on Raw, and that was great. This match was just totally unnecessary. It didn't help Ruby. It really didn't help Ronda, because we already knew Ronda was a fucking badass in the ring, so there you go. Number 10, Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax at TLC 2018. This is not good. This was not good. This was fucking rotten as far as I'm concerned. One, they were trying to piggyback off all the heat that Nia got for breaking Becky's face, accidental or otherwise. It didn't help. Nobody wanted to see Nia in the ring against Rousey. They tried to capture lightning in a bottle like they did at Money in the Bank, and don't worry, I'm going to talk about that Money in the Bank match a little bit later. This was not good. It was not. It should have not taken Rousey more than 6 minutes to beat Nia, and I think the match was about twice that. Nia is not really good in the ring, and I know she's recovering from double ACL surgery, or at least she's going to be having that soon. I know she tore both her ACLs. I mean, not in this match, but at Mania 35, apparently. So yeah, best of luck in her recovery, but that doesn't mean that she was any good in the ring, and this was pretty bad. And it had Nia in it. What the fuck do you expect? Nia's pretty fucking rotten in the ring. Rotten in the ring, rotten on the goddamn mic. I'm not saying anything bad needs to happen to her. I'm not saying she deserves to get injured, all this stuff or whatever. But for somebody that was in NXT for a bit and then got brought up to the main roster, she has actually regressed in the ring. So hopefully, now with these injuries, and after recovering, maybe she can come back with a renewed push and vigor and actually learn how to wrestle and not injure people. But yeah, when Ronda has to carry you, and she hadn't been in the ring all that long, like only a number of months by this point, that's not good. Nia Jax should have been able to be a little more competitive without being carried here and, looking like, a slug. She just doesn't look like she knows what the fuck she's doing in the ring. This was pretty goddamn bad. But then we get to number 9. It's Ronda Rousey and the Bellas versus the Riott Squad, Super Showdown. The Bellas were in a pay-per-view match in 2018. That wasn't the Royal Rumble. I get the Royal Rumble. I get that. It was first ever women's Royal Rumble. And you had to include the Bellas, because you didn't want to actually bring talented people into it. And don't worry, I'm going to, start slandering the Bellas here in a little bit. So if you don't like Bella slander, sorry, you're not going to like the next couple minutes of this video. But this was an expected match. I remember, I think I was at I think the Raw that we were at, myself, Durbinator, and our friend Cassie, We were at the one where Elias mentioned the Seattle Supersonics, or whatever, like a basketball team in Seattle, and we booed, and everybody booed them for like 7 minutes, 7 minutes. I didn't give a shit because I was never a Sonics fan, but it was just great being in that atmosphere. But anyway, it was Rousey versus Ruby Riott, and a much more competitive match than they would have at Elimination Chamber, like I mentioned before. This was a very formulaic match, and you expected the Bellas to turn on Rousey right here. No, they didn't. It was just very basic, and I'm sorry. But the fact that the Bellas were in a match that they really had no business being in, that was just not very good. And this was shortly after the fucking, thing where Brie ended up accidentally injuring Liv, because Brie's a careless twat that doesn't know what she's doing. I know that she was depressed and upset afterward, and some people, myself included, said a few too many mean things about her. But that didn't mean she needed to be in the goddamn ring. I want to show my daughter I can do something. Well, Brie, you had no business being in the ring before, and you weren't any good when you came back. Now, it's got to be tough, having a baby and getting back into anything athletic. I do give her credit for that. Same with Maurice. But Brie was just so fucking goddamn rotten, and this didn't help. And Nikki isn't very good. This match, again, formulaic. Rousey's team won. Okay, cool. At least Rousey won. I wish the Riot Squad would have won, but I knew they weren't going to. But then we get to number 8, Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella at Evolution. This match was fucking atrocious. I'm sorry. I know that there are people that are going to be saying I'm too goddamn harsh on this, but Charlotte versus Becky, last woman standing, should have closed. I get why Rousey was in the main event, but somebody tell me why Nikki Bella needed to be in the main event in 2018. Oh, she busted her neck. She did this kind of stuff. Look, I give her credit for working with a busted neck and working on borrowed time, and it's no joke suffering injuries like that. I do give her credit for that. But what if she won a fucking gold medal? A lot of people get injured. I'm just saying, there are plenty of people to come back from injuries. There are plenty of people to work with, busted necks, backs, knees, shoulders, head, shoulders, knees and toes. But that doesn't mean that, her injury should go above others. But again, not saying that Nikki Bella should be, she deserved that injury or nothing like that. No. And I'm not going to hear any of that slander in the comments. Let's just say that much. But Nikki Bella, totally undeserving to be in this main event. Yeah, it's an evolution. Yes, and this evolution passed Nikki Bella by well before 2015. She was not any good then. She was worse here. And, okay, people are like, well, Nikki carried Ronda. No, she fucking didn't. I'm sorry, if you feel that Nikki helped carry Ronda, no. Yes, it takes 2 to tango. But Ronda should have wiped the floor with her in 5 minutes. It should have been a 5-minute squash. But they had to resort to padding it out for 14 minutes with the whole Bella twin magic thing, or Brie interfering and somehow not botching. And Nikki, I know that Nikki did take that, shoulder throw, arm drag thing off the top, and credit to her for that, but this was not main event worthy. It just wasn't. And yes, Rousey won. She should have won. She should have won in 5 fucking minutes. What the fuck could Nikki Bella do to her? Good, good job. You managed to hit 1 kick. Congratulations. She is not any good. And thankfully seems to be retired. She doesn't need to come back to the ring. 1, I don't want to see her fucking paralyzed in the ring. If her neck is that bad, I don't want to see her paralyzed in the ring. But this was totally undeserving for Nikki. Ronda deserved a better opponent. I mean, I'm not saying they should have Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky in the main event at this point, though that would have been significantly better. You still had the Charlotte-Becky storyline to wrap up. But fucking hell, I don't know, Ronda versus Ruby or Ronda versus Ember Moon or something like that. I mean, yeah, you might have wondered, what the hell, why doesn't Nikki deserve the spot? What the fuck did she do? Now, she banged Cena and she got back into the company. I mean, I'm sorry, if she wasn't banging Cena, there's no way she would have gotten that title shot. You can call me a hater or you damn well won. I have presented my case and said that Nikki never deserved that injury and never deserved to be injured, and certainly I hope she can have a quality of life, but in the ring, she was fucking rotten. And this was a rotten match. Should have been 5 minutes, should have been a squash for Ronda. And I'm not even Ronda's biggest fan outside the ring, as I've said before. But yeah, it should have been Becky versus Charlotte in the main event. Nothing against Ronda. Nikki Bella never deserved to be in the main event. Fucking atrocious. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And she hopefully will never come back to the wrestling ring because she never deserved to be in it. Because she wasn't any good. And neither was her sister. 2 of the biggest jokes that have ever graced a wrestling ring, at least as far as women go. And yes, I mean, you could say Eva Marie. Of course, Eva Marie is fucking worse. But anyway, enough of that. Fortunately, they didn't have Eva Marie come back and face Ronda Rousey. That would have been fucking bad. But now we get to number 7. Ronda Rousey versus Alexa Bliss, Hell in a Cell 2018. This isn't as good as the SummerSlam match because it was way too competitive. And I got nothing against Alexa. Alexa's not that great in the ring, but she's got a great character. She's good on the mic. She's great on the mic, in fact. She can cut down the crowd really well. She can cut down the crowd to her size, which takes a lot of work because she must be this tall to be on most fucking, rides at a fair or a carnival or Six Flags or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But this match was just too fucking competitive, and especially since it took place after the SummerSlam match. I didn't like it necessarily. If this had been a few minutes longer, sure. But it was like 11 or 12 minutes and need to be maybe 7. Alexa should have gotten some shots in, but just the fact that it went on this long. Yes, Ronda was, I guess, selling some kind of rib injury or something like that, if I recall correctly. It's really bad that this stuff was not even like 8 months ago, and I can't fucking remember I can't even remember how these matches go. But anyway, it just wasn't very good. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't bad. Now we get into a little bit of better stuff because you have Ronda Rousey presented as a killer versus Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam the month before Hell in a Cell. And if you didn't know, August takes place before September. I'm sorry, I probably blew your minds with that. But if you didn't know that, calendars are your friend. As I point to a calendar you can't see right off camera. This is exactly what it should have been. It should have been Alexa running scared, getting a couple shots in, but just getting fucking killed by Rousey. Now, yes, competitive matches eventually needed to happen, but just Alexa, who isn't that good in the ring, I'm sorry, she's not. The character work is her main focus and what she's good at. But it was Rousey basically just killing Alexa, and that was great stuff. Then we get number 5, Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax, Money in the Bank 2018. 100% better than I thought it would be. That doesn't mean it was great, but, Rousey picking up Nia, and Nia actually sort of doing some shit. This is when turning her heel still kind of made no sense because she was supposed to be she was a face coming out, heading into Mania 34, won the title from Alexa, and then you had Backlash, and then you had this. And it within a month, within like a couple weeks after Backlash, Nia's back to being a heel. And what saved this match was Alexa cashing in, because had Rousey won the match here, then you would have had to have had Alexa cash in on Ronda or something like that. But Alexa cashed in, hit Rousey with the briefcase, and Nia got pinned, and that was pretty cool. That's exactly how they should have done it. Even if I didn't agree with Alexa winning the title, it was nice how they did the cash in. It was acceptable, really, if you want to be honest, but it was better than some of the other stuff. And then we get to number 4. Rousey versus Sasha, the 2019 Rumble. Not the actual Rumble match, but on the 2019 Rumble card. Terrific stuff. Sasha's weave actually, did some good stuff here because it thought for her and made sure, hey, you shouldn't do any stupid shit or botch or hurt yourself. And I know botches happen, but there are times where I think Sasha tries to do too much and botches and almost hurts herself and her opponent. Take it easy or you ain't going to be walking by the time you're fucking 30. Not that, any wrestler's going to be watching this. But as a fan, I don't want to see anything bad happen to Sasha. This was a good match, though. Of course, before this, you had on Raw, Ronda Rousey say, what does she expect me to do? Cut off my hair and wash her feet with it? And I will never let that go. And no one should ever fucking let that go. There is not a goddamn chance that anybody should ever let that go. Because it was hilarious. Absolutely fucking hilarious, and it will live on in meme form forever. Now, good match, though, with Sasha. You could argue maybe it went on a little too long, but I don't think so. I think this is what you need competitively to make Rousey seem a little vulnerable. Because by this point, Sasha is somebody that could match her at least as far as a good woman's wrestler. And Sasha's not fantastic. She's better than she's been able to present recently. But this was exactly what you needed to make Sasha seem credible, again. And then you needed to have, you need to have Rousey seem like a killer at the end, where she pulled it out at the end. This was a good match, though. It was not as good as the Becky Asuka match on WWE, on the WWE Royal Rumble card. That actually kicked off the main roster, or the main card. In fact, I might actually have to rank Asuka's, pay-per-view matches from worst to best. I might even include the TakeOver ones. We'll see. Who knows at that point? I could do that. I think I'll do that at some point. But here we go. Yeah, Asuka, I don't know what the fuck they're doing with her. But anyway, yeah, that Rousey-Sasha match was actually quite good. And then we get to, this is going to be controversial. People are not going to like it because Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Mania 35 is number 3. This has nothing to do with the women. I'm thrilled they were in the main event. Women deserve to be in the main event well before this. Ronda Rousey is a big, monumental fucking reason as to why the women were, in the main event. And that's no disrespect to any other woman that has been in that company, that has worked hard with the best or worst booking that they've ever gotten. Becky and Charlotte, sure, you could argue that Lynch versus Rousey would have probably been better. Maybe they should have done a rematch of Charlotte versus Asuka, but they didn't do that. They did not do the thing, and they ruined Asuka, and they did effectively ruin her. You can say whatever you want, but that's my opinion. This was a great match. It did have some botches. You're going to have botches and anything. And quite frankly, the crowd being a little didn't help because they were so exhausted because the show went on for about 5 years. But it was a good match. And yes, you could say the botched finish and that kind of stuff might have taken a little bit out of it. And it kind of did for me. Kind of. And it's nothing against women. It's just how it was booked. But I will say that this is where, Rousey arrived. She did pretty damn well. I mean, Rousey arrived earlier, but Rousey brought everything she could. Charlotte was clearly the MVP of this, and I love Becky Lynch. Becky did well, and Becky, did tremendous, but Charlotte was the MVP of this. Becky winning had to fucking happen, though, and that's why I enjoyed it. So it was a great match, but we'd get to number 2, and it's Ronda Rousey's debut match. Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Stephanie and Triple H at Mania 34. This was 100% better than I thought it would be. 100% better than it had any goddamn right to be. It was tremendous. It was well worked. The pacing, the timing, Rousey being there for everything, boxing with Triple H and picking him up in an impressive, feat of strength. I mean, that's about a 260-pound guy she's picking up. That was impressive. The stuff with Stephanie, Kurt having Stephanie in the ankle lock, Ronda Rousey doing some great shit. Just really, it was perfectly paced. Was it the best match on the card? Yeah, actually, I would argue it was the best match. Maybe this and the IC title 3-way were the best matches on the card. But this was great, and for a debut match, I really can't think of many that were better. Especially a high-profile, big main event, big match at a WrestleMania. Like, as far as WrestleMania debuts, ignoring, say, the first few, because, WrestleMania was in its infancy, this outshines pretty much every WrestleMania debut I can think of at least in the last 20 years. I mean, or damn close to it. Ronda Rousey did tremendous, everybody did tremendous, and I'm no fan of Stephanie, but this was well done. And number 1, Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte at Survivor Series. It was supposed to be Rousey versus Becky Lynch and champion, but Becky Lynch got the broken face because Nia is a careless twat that can't do anything correct. But we got this, which turned out to actually be pretty goddamn good. It ended in DQ, Charlotte just going nuts and grabbing her friend Ken, dough stick. Why did they try to make that happen? But with this, the pacing, the figure 4, the figure 4 attempts, the figure 4 and the figure 8 attempts, the armbar, the well-worked stuff, the hard hits, this was just great. This was pretty much Charlotte getting back to form after that feud with Becky, and it was a great feud with Becky, and she put her over strong. But this was exactly what it needed to be, and ending in DQ was perfect. And the crowd just chanting, "You deserve it," at Rousey and Charlotte going full-on heel, even though Charlotte was being cheered wildly. Gotta say, Rousey played her role well, so did Charlotte. This was fucking tremendous. So that's going to be the end of that. Yes, a bit of a rant-filled countdown, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if there's some other countdowns of other superstars you want me to do for pay-per-view matches. Like women. Let me know if you want to do ones for women. Sasha, Bayley, Asuka, others. Leave in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Riplin. I will see you soon.